mention my husband a lot of times on this channel. I have my husband here today, King Samuel, and we're just going to do a quick video on some of the lessons that we've learned in marriage. We recently celebrated our 10-year anniversary earlier this month. So this is my husband King. So he's going to share with you some of the things that he's learned in marriage, and then I will. All right, go on, babe.
Okay, right. Bear in mind, this is completely unscripted. She's literally grabbed me off of the staircase and pulled me in to do this. So yeah, her responses aren't scripted either.
in it. But it's better that way. It's more natural.
Maybe so. All right. So first lesson I'd say I learned as soon as I got married. Obviously, this is not supposed to be looking from 10 years on, but I think the first lesson I learned as soon as I got married was that as a man you have a grave responsibility. I remember getting married and on the wedding night, being sat up looking at Charlotte while she was sleeping and thinking, "Wow, I've got so much responsibility." And so yeah, that made me think a lot about what it is I had to do and how I might bring that forth. It wasn't just the responsibility of let me take care of the finances and that type of thing. It was I have somebody whose happiness is now my responsibility, and you can be the architect of happiness and also the architect of the reverse as well. So yeah, it's a grave responsibility. And then also besides that responsibility is now you're also responsible for like their spiritual nourishment and their growth. Obviously Charlotte's an individual, but you're as a man you're responsible. That's your position, in proper headship. So yeah, that was the first lesson. What was the second one? I say the second one probably came a little while along, but I think it was re-emphasized when we had children. And when we had children, the lesson was further emphasized that you are incredibly selfish. And marriage will let you know how selfish you are. It really will. Marriage will really let you know how selfish you are, and you have to be really honest about that. But like I said, when you have children also let you know how selfish you are as well, because you just want the little suckers to go to sleep. And the reason you want them to go to sleep is so that you can have your time. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with healthy boundaries for children as well. But when they're crying and they're not going to bed, it's long, and you realize, Lord, I'm actually quite selfish. When your wife wants her way and you want your way, and your way is more important than anything else, and not for any principled reason, just because you want your way, or you're used to doing it that way, you realize, man, I'm really selfish. And so I think that was really, the early years really exemplified that. And then you'll see it in the latter years as well, as you grow, and there's different, because you'll change and there's things that you want to do that are different and diverse from each other. And then that will show its head again. And all it is just God trying to drain you of more selfishness. So, be open to the draining, because it's not easy. What else from there? In 10 years of marriage, this will be a message to people that aren't married, or or a message to people that have just got married, and maybe even a message to people that have been struggling. Finances are important. Finances is incredibly important. My finances haven't been fantastic right from the very beginning. In fact, one of the big noises that my sister-in-law was making back in the day, so she said, "Yeah, you can't keep a job and stuff like that." And it wasn't so much an indictment against me. She was more worrying about the stability of her sister. Two women, they chase after men, not chase after men, but they seek men with good finances and all the rest of it. And the reason is because, not because they're gold diggers, but rather because money equals security. Women want security. And in this world, money equals security. In days past, that would have been, houses, there would have been land and sheep and, cattle and all that type of stuff, or even skill sets. In this day and age, skill sets still are useful, but essentially, you need to get your finances sorted, and you need to get on the same page about finances as quickly as possible. You need to create a vision about what it is you want to see. You need to spend time getting educated about money. If one is more educated about money than the other, then you need to it behooves you as a man or as a woman to, in fact, let me talk as a man because I'm not a woman. It behooves you as a man, if your wife isn't as, knowledgeable about finances, you need to educate your wife about finances. You just have to, because there are things that you're going to want to do, and there's ways that you might need to go about stuff that she may not understand. Charlotte came from um, the house of her family straight into a marital home. So she didn't have the living by herself, renting, or owning property or anything like that. So there was a vast amount of information that had never come across her plate as it pertains to financial education. And then I was pretty, wet behind the ears. I wasn't taught about a large amount of things. I knew how to maintain, a home, but I wasn't savvy when it came to finance and credit. So I definitely say do that. Why? Why? Because in our lifetime, in our marriage, we've almost lost a home.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for the grace of God and family, we would have lost a home. And so you definitely need to sort your finances, because you don't want to be a burden to people. And you don't want it to be a burden to your marriage. You don't want it to be a burden to your romance, or to your children. Or you don't want it to color your conversations that your children hear when you talk about finances. It's really, really important. And we'll just leave it there. Finance is important. It can affect your bedroom. In fact, lads, if you get your finances up, you'll probably find that those desired trips to the bedroom with your missus will increase. And it's just that plain. Why? Because she feels secure. Not because she's a gold digger. She just feels secure. All right. What was that? 3?
Oh yeah.
Communication. I know Charlotte's got that one on her list as well. But you have to learn how to argue constructively, because you're going to argue.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You're going to argue. You're going to have to learn how to argue constructively. You're going to have to fight within yourself to not be petty and not raise your voice just for the sake of, raising your voice. You're going to have to struggle to not respond to your spouse raising their voice. That is all work. Now, if you've already got that down, fantastic. Then it means there's other things that you have to work on. Sometimes it's wording, sometimes it's tone of voice, sometimes it's time of approach. Charlotte, I work from home, and Charlotte will come and knock on my door and try and talk about important stuff with me whilst I'm in the midst of doing other important stuff. And my brain cannot compute. So there's other times for her to do that. Or she'll want to have real deep conversation first thing in the morning. And I don't want to have those conversations first thing in the morning. I want to pray or hug, all the rest of that. But that doesn't mean that she only gets to communicate when I say so. Sometimes there has to be space for that conversation, but it's good for you to understand your spouse and when their communication windows are in and how they accept that communication, and when it's best to have that. I do the reverse of the things that Charlotte does to me to her. Probably trouble her when she's in the kitchen, when she's watching their shows. If I'm on the road, then I'm in the car, I'll call her on the phone because I want her to talk to me, but Charlotte doesn't want to talk to me. She wants to watch her shows. And so we have to accept when it's best for communication to transpire, and then we also have to kind of treat each other like children and make sure we actually understand what's being said, because it's so easy. We can send messages, text messages, we can speak in front of each other, but even just with speaking in front of each other, it's easy to misconstrue, especially if our emotions are in the midst, exactly what we're saying. So there you go. That's 4. Am I supposed to give a 5th?
No, that's fine. Well, I did say 10 and then 5 each.
All right, 5 each.
But yeah, I'm just thinking about the length of the video. I don't want it to go too long.
All right. Yeah. Last one. This will be my 11th minute. If you don't, as a man, set the standards for your home, everybody else will set the standards for you. Now, as a man, you have to have headship over your home. You must do. If you're running a Christian home, I can't talk about any other types of marriages. But if you're running a Christian home, you have to have headship of your home, and that doesn't mean that you run around like a bull in a china shop. It means that you set laws that are for the benefit of your family. Yeah. Those laws have to take into consideration the vision that God has given you for your family. My vision for my family is that we will all be saved. You know, whether he sends some of us to sleep before, or whether we live until we see him come, I want us all to be saved. So I have to set the standards and the laws in our house that cause us to move and act in a way that's going to help us to interact with one another, to function together in a way that is growing us towards salvation as opposed to against salvation. And that means you have to regulate yourself first. So self-regulation, I think, is important. We got a gentleman in the States that we know called James Penn, and his wife, and they have a saying which is, marriage isn't hard, working on yourself is hard. You know, so as a man, you definitely need to set the standard, but you need to work on yourself. More and more, I recognize if you're not praying and fasting and reading and studying and listening to the word of God, then you at least need to get yourself in counseling, because you got issues more than what you think you got. You know, and even if you are doing those things, there's a space for counseling. So yeah, there you go. That's my one. Those are my 5.
Alrighty then. Well, what I think I'll do, I'll make a video right after this and talk about mine, just to keep the videos not too long.
Why are you trying to be separate?
No, I'm not being separate. This guy.
You're trying to have some secret stuff. I
don't
know
you're
about
standing here.
Okay, all right.
With you here. All right then. Bye, ladies.